Today we are making everybody's favorite jam bars, but we're making them in a 9x5 loaf pan. Now this small batch version is made with fresh raspberries, raspberry jam, a shortbread crust, and it's topped with an oatmeal streusel. They are so good. You're gonna love them. We're gonna start our jam bars by preheating our oven, 375 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we're gonna mix together. Now these bars are actually like 3 layers. You have your shortbread layer, your raspberry layer, and then your streusel layer on top. So we're gonna start by mixing together the ingredients for the shortbread layer. For our jam bars, we're going to preheat our oven to 375 degrees. Then we're gonna take a 9x5 loaf pan and we're gonna line it with some parchment paper. And I have cut my parchment paper, I kind of cut the corners out of it here so that this fits right in and it doesn't overlap at all. Now, if you want to know how I did that, leave me a comment down below and maybe I'll do a little tutorial. But here's our pan. Now, so if you don't have parchment paper, go ahead and grease the pan. It's just a little harder to get your bars out, but totally doable. All right, so let's start by mixing up. Now, these bars come in 3 layers. You have your shortbread layer, your raspberry layer, and then your streusel layer, okay? So we're gonna mix up the shortbread layer. So for the shortbread layer, I have 5 tablespoons of softened butter. You want it nice and soft, okay? And then we are going to add in 3/4 of a cup plus 2 teaspoons of flour into there. We're gonna use 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. Now, if you're using unsalted butter, add a nice little pinch more of salt in. And then we've got 1/4 cup of sugar. Now, you're gonna wanna wash your hands, okay? And then, make sure they're nice and clean. And then I gotta grab a towel. Once your hands are clean, we're just gonna mix this together with our hands. So much easier. We just wanna kind of pinch that butter and everything into the dry ingredients until you get kind of a wet, coarse sand texture. Now you wanna do this quickly because you don't wanna actually melt that butter, okay, with the heat of your hands. All right, nice and crumbly. You see that? Nice coarse sand, and then we're gonna wash our hands again. All right, hands are clean. Then we are going to let me grab a tablespoon, and we're gonna remove some of this mixture because we're gonna use part of it for our crumble topping. And we're gonna take out 6 tablespoons. I'm just gonna put it in this measuring cup here and reserve that, set it aside. 4, 5, 6, okay. Then we're gonna take that prepared loaf pan, all right? And we are just going to pour the rest of our crumb mixture in there. And then just take your hands and press it down. You want it nice and flat and as even as possible. All right, while the shortbread crust is baking, we're going to mix up the next layer, which is actually the 3rd layer, or the top layer, which is our crumb coating or streusel coating. So we're gonna take a mixture that we set aside, add that in, take a tablespoon of brown sugar. I've got 1/3 of a cup, is it 1/3? Yes, 1/3 of a cup of old-fashioned oats. Now, if all you have is, what are they called? You know, the other kind of oats. Anyway, you can use those. It just affects the texture a little bit. Okay, and then a tablespoon of softened butter. All right, then my hands are still clean. We're gonna use our hands again because it's just so much easier and quicker. And we wanna mix that all together till it kind of, again, resembles a slightly wet sand consistency. All right, you want it nice and crumbly though, so not any really big chunks, kind of break them up so that we can have little smaller pieces. All right, get to wash your hands again. All right, we're gonna put that crumb mixture aside and we're gonna mix up the 3rd layer, or which is really the 2nd layer. The middle layer is our raspberry layer. And so we're gonna use a combination of fresh raspberries and raspberry jam. Now, if you had strawberries and strawberry jam, go for it. Blueberries, blueberry jam. You can totally change up the flavor of the middle filling. I'm just gonna smash those up with my fork a bit. And then we're gonna add in our jam. Now, my favorite jam is the Bon Moment jam. It's a French jam. This is the raspberry one. And we're gonna add in 1/4 cup of the jam. All right, and then just to give it a little punch, a little freshness, we're gonna add in a teaspoon of lemon juice, okay? That just kind of, and we'll pick out the seeds we got in there. All right, oh, that lemon had a lot of seeds. Get those out of there. And then we're just gonna mix this all up, and then as soon as that crust is done, we are going to spread this on the warm crust. All right, there is our jam filling layer. All right, our shortbread crust is done. It's nice and lightly brown around the edges. So while it is still hot, you're just going to take that raspberry mixture and we are going to spread it all across the top. And I like to use a offset spatula for this. It's easier to get into it than with just a regular knife. Get that spread all over. All right, after we've got that done, we're going to take that crumble mixture that we have left and just crumble it up again if you need to, if it's kind of gotten stuck together. And we are going to cover the whole top of that raspberry mixture with the crumble topping. After we got that on there, we're going to put it back in the oven for about 20 minutes or until that crumble topping turns nice and golden brown and the raspberry layer is nice and bubbly. It's done, it's nice and golden brown and smells delicious. We're gonna let it sit for just a few minutes to cool down a bit and then we're gonna lift it out of the pan. All right, we're gonna remove them out of our pan. You can see how easy that parchment paper makes it to remove them. And then they're ready to eat. Yeah, so you can cut this into 4, let's see it here, 4 large pieces or into 8 squares, whatever you want. All right, so how many pieces are you gonna cut yours into? Can I just tell you, these jam bars are so addicting that I am so glad this is only a small batch and not a whole 9 by 13 pan full because I would totally be tempted to eat the whole thing. So I hope you'll give these a try. They're yummy, they're delicious. Let me know in the comments what kind of fruit you use, and I'll see you in the next video.